Hi, I'm Julius, 37.
And I'm Mars, 40.
I live in Germany with my wife, our 2 sons, and our 2 dogs.
And I live in the Netherlands with my wife, our son, and our dog.
We are both entrepreneurs together with our wives.
And next to that, I am also employed.
We live very busy lives with very few spare time.
So we need to make sure we get the most out of our days.
We want to live healthy, develop ourselves,
and challenge ourselves.
And together with that, we want to be good husbands.
And a fun dad.
And that's why we're sticking to a strict regime.
For 75 consecutive days.
Welcome to Fatherly Grid, thriving through 75 hard. And now we are back. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining. The 5th episode of 75 Hard is coming to you live from my home office in Mars' living room.
Nicely comfortable on the sofa.
Yes, very comfy. Mars, thanks for joining. We took a bit time off to readjust, and now we are back in full force with, I feel like, a little bit more energy than we had left the last 2 episodes.
I think so too. I this afternoon I spoke with a colleague of mine who is a listener of our pod, and he did mention, like, okay, you guys were a bit whiny. You were low on energy, guys. Come on, what's happening? So yeah, it's good that we got energized again.
So, how you doing? How was life?
Life's good. Energized again. And last week I was a bit busy in my head. I always call it a bit clutter in my head. Like all these thoughts go running through your head, and there's no way that you can somehow get your thoughts straight. So, I don't know, 100,000 different thoughts. You begin with all of them, but you don't finish any of them. And I just needed to, take a little break, have a good walk with the dog, just a couple of evenings, nothing except for obviously my challenge. And things are fine. We had a great weekend finally as a family again. As you know, my wife is during the weekend usually working in the shop, but this weekend, thank God, she was off. Our colleagues were running the shop, and we were able to have a proper family weekend. So that's really good.
When was the last time you had a full weekend off? Was it during your wedding?
I think after the wedding we went to France as well.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Not as a honeymoon, but in during the summer. So that was a week. And we had one long weekend where we rented a house, and we went together with Ziggy, together with Frankie the dog. And Ziggy was staying over at our my parents-in-law. So it's been a long time.
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
But it felt good. This is what you guys are experiencing, a weekend.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I'm good. The kids still caught me. So I had the last 2 weeks I had, first of all, the older one was at home, sick, like congested and coughing and all this stuff. And I upped my vitamin regimen a bit, so just in precaution. But then the week after, the smaller one got it as well. And now, as you can hear, I have a small cold. It's not too bad. I hope it's going to be fine in the next couple of days. But that makes working out a little bit more difficult. And the other thing I have in the back of my head is like that you can get like heart muscle inflation, myocardial inflammation while working out. So that is still a little bit in the back of my head while I'm working out, because I upped my creatine intake because I listened. I listened to one of the smaller Huberman bits, where he said, I weigh around 100 kilos, and I take, instead of taking 5 grams of creatine, I'm taking 10 grams based on my weight. So I said, I'm around that. I'm not as muscular as he is, but I weigh more like the same. So I upped it, and it was crazy. I didn't realize that it was that impactful.
What was the change that you felt?
I put on more likely 10 kilos on every station I'm doing. Bench press, pulls, pull, rowing.
Really?
Yeah. At the rowing machine, so at the front rowing, I went back. So I switched from barbells front rows onto the machine, which is a super basic Hammersmith machine, which has not too many kind of lay arounds.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm already one-armed rowing 65 kilos, one arm.
Nice.
And that is, and I'm doing now 7 pull-ups. I've never done wide pull-ups, and I was never able to do kind of full and good pull-ups. So I'm trying to up my pull-up game there. So yeah, and it got fat in 1.5 weeks. It took, and I was able, or the app machine, which is a weird, like super old school app crunch machine.
So the chair that you fold yourself
and
into.
it's not a chair you lay on the back, and it's really warm. So it's not a machine. It's you get plates and put it on. So it's super old school. And normally I was at 45 kilos aroundish, and I'm now. So I did my last set was 70 kilos and 10 reps.
That's a serious change.
And I was like, did they do something to the machine? And I asked the trainer, was like, did you oil it or something? I have no idea what is it. And I was on the brink of like asking a random person, could you just try that way to make sure that you can do it as well? Because that is a ridiculous amount of weight on there.
Are you sure they didn't give you the fake weights?
Yeah, that's what I asked as well, and he was laughing. He was like, "Yeah, what did you change anything?" And I was, "Yeah, I upped my creatine intake." And he was like, "Yeah, welcome to my world, dude." And the heavy stack of steroids I'm taking.
Yeah, I never realized that creatine could make such a big difference. Because, I mean, creatine is something that your body produces by itself.
Yeah. So 10 grams of creatine every day.
Is there a way that the body can produce more creatine than it does standardly?
No, I don't think so. And I didn't do the research here, but it's an interesting development because as I said in the past, I wasn't always super strong. So it's still not super strong, but going from, for example, bench press is a good example. I think I started at 40, and then I got slowly into kind of the 60s and the 70s. Now I'm on the brink of getting onto 100. So if that kind of growth and development is continuing, I'm going to be at 100 kilo bench press, I would say, by the end of next week.
Wow.
The last time I benched 100 kilos is literally 21 years ago.
I wanted to make the joke like that was 1909, but yeah, almost.
Yeah. So really, the last time I bench press was, I think I was 17 or 18 or something like that, in that range.
Awesome.
So.
Hey, but before people think that they're listening to some kind of fitness guru podcast, how's the rest of the challenge going?
Food is fine, still annoying, and the reading is going well, water is going well. Hadn't had any issues here. I tend to drink more, and the peeing adjusted, obviously.
Yeah. Did you have any stops at the gas station again?
No. Luckily not. So no incidents. But yeah. I started a new book. I'm done with the mindset book, and I'm reading now Lori Gottlieb. Maybe you should talk to someone, a therapist, her therapist in Our Lives Revealed, which is interesting because it's obviously a book about mental health. It's a kind of a crossover between like learning about mental health aside from like spreading in kind of personal experiences. And I heard the podcast, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. which is the podcast. I send it to you, and I'm happy to link it in the podcast. And she was a guest, and I was just curious about kind of her work, and I found the book, and I said, yeah, let's just give it a try. And it's a super interesting read about mental health. And aside of that, I'm listening to Be Useful, 7 Tools for Life by Arnold Schwarzenegger. I needed something for my walks, and I can't recommend this book enough to everyone. It's awesome.
Is it very inspirational? Is it?
Yeah, it's interesting to hear from him. So it's not a biography, or it doesn't feel like a biography, but he recaps his life and his accomplishments, but not in a way to brag and show off about what he's accomplished. More likely, what are my takeaways? Where were my downfalls? What did I take out of these downfalls? Where can somebody else learn from my mistakes to be better? And that is super interesting, because even when he has obviously an insane life with his accomplishments in the bodybuilding field, in his accomplishments as his $1 million actor in this blockbuster movies, becoming governor of California, which is accomplishment of 3 lifetimes more likely. He's so humble and so like approachable, I would say.
And is he really going bare ass with
and that it makes it even more interesting. And since you are still reading the mindset book, I finished it, but a lot of the things he's talking about in his book, in the audiobook, is crossing over with this whole kind of fixed mindset and grow mindset. So the main message is, even when you set yourself a goal and obviously do everything for it, but if you have setbacks, take a look back, take a look at it, and make sure you don't do the mistake again. And also make sure you take as much from your mistakes and your failures as you can. And don't be sad and bathe in your own misery. Get up, brush off, and continue your journey. And I feel like, and with his cool accent and his, he's literally sitting in his living room and he's swearing and he's not holding back, which makes it even more entertaining. Hearing Arnold Schwarzenegger say, "Do your fucking job," and talking shit about kind of other politicians and the whole world of celebrities and stuff like that. It's super interesting. It's a definite tip from my end. I'm
very curious, especially for the fact that, like you hear a lot of these successful people saying, they give this advice of, set yourself goals and do everything you have to do to reach those goals. And if you get a setback, don't sulk in your misery, but continue the journey. But, I'm hoping for something more than just, those, I'd call them a bit empty words, because everyone says these things. So I hope that he has really more in depth.
Yeah, from kind of the audiobooks I've listened to so far, and I listened to a couple of biographies and all this stuff, it's the one where I can take from the most, I would say. And take it a bit of an inspiration. When it comes down, set yourself goals, even when it's small things, focus and make sure you do everything you can to get where you want to be. And I think, and be useful. I think that the first frame is be useful. Do something.
Be fucking useful.
That's it. I wanted to close the gap before we come to you and your challenge, because I got a couple of messages, which was surprising and made me really happy, on the mom mob. And I got a couple of things. One was the beige movement. So, everything has to be like, when you take a look at kids, which are really clean, and people invest so much in how their kid look and how that has to behave on the playground. And they make it kind of their mission to make the kid as clean as possible and visually appealing and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the other one, which was interesting, was the whole food situation. So, wow, you are feeding your kid processed food like baby food? So you're not cooking yourself all day? So this whole kind of judgmental situation, you're giving your kid sugar, and no, we are going to make sure that our kids is not going to have sugary snacks or whatever.
Yeah.
6 years old. So the messages I received is that it's interesting, and they were not able to, since they are young parents, not able to say, okay, it was back in the past, it was the same, but everybody's getting so judgmental. And even when you share with others, everybody has an opinion. And that's interesting.
Yeah, and I thought about that because I don't think that anything has changed over time, in the sense that back in the 1900s, everyone had opinions as well. And probably everyone uttered their opinions just as much as they did right now, verbally. However, there is a big change, which is called social media, that everyone who's not uttering it verbally can also just, like put their shit and all their opinions on social media or wherever, with all the new channels. I think that's the biggest difference. And I think you had a very, very good point in the podcast, and I got some feedback on that as well, is that especially as young parents, you're new to the entire game of parenthood, and you have, like it is scary at times, and like you just want to do the best, and you do it to the best of your ability. And obviously somewhere in the back of your head, there will always be this little voice saying like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing it correctly? Am I not messing my kid up, or fucking him up? And then getting shit from other people, it can be very intense. I think my wife and I, we're very open towards each other about it, that we speak about these things, and that, we don't let it get to us. But yeah, I can imagine, and there might be some listeners that are really having difficulties, like leaving those judgments out of their, their personal aura. So yeah, that's a difficult one.
Yeah, that was the one that I got in the messages, that the biggest challenge is shut off the voices.
Yeah.
And just hear, to make sure that you have the I don't know, the chance to do something and just go your own journey, and don't let others dictate what you have to do and what not.
Exactly. And all this comparing kids as well, like, oh, your kid is 1 year old and he doesn't walk yet.
Yeah.
Like with this question mark, basically saying like your kid is slow. Well, yeah. There is no person in this world that hasn't started, like, okay, maybe there are some medical things that I'm overseeing right now, but almost all kids have started walking. Almost all kids have started talking, started writing, started reading. So if your kid is a bit slower than another, it doesn't make a difference,
Yeah, I agree.
I got 2 really nice messages as well. Literally, well, basically the day after the podcast came online, I got 2 messages saying, be careful what you say about the consultation agency. Remember, my wife used to work there. And for those listeners who missed it, I gave some stick to the ladies at our consultation agency being very judgmental about my wife going to work very quickly after she gave birth, and us bringing Ziggy to the daycare center at a very young age. Well, let's just leave it like that before I start swearing. And I got another message saying, red hair is beautiful. Don't let anyone say anything else. So it's nice to hear that people are listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
Hey, but one thing that I still wanted to ask you, one of the things that, during the previous podcast episodes was a red line is your sleep deprivation. And I was wondering, like, how is it now with your sleep and your energy level because of sleep?
It's still the same. I'm not able to For example, the last 3 nights I worked out really late. So I went to the gym at like 10, between like 9:30 and 10, and then I worked out. And I can't go to bed after. So I got home at 11:15, 11:20, and I can't go immediately to bed. And the result is I'm going to stay up till 12, 12:30, and then go to bed and get up back up at 6 in the morning. So the result is I'm potentially going to get 5 hours of quality sleep. Yeah, this is something I have to work on. Maybe this is something I have to try to figure out in the future when I'm done with the challenge, because I'm not going to pick up any more construction sites here.
Can you change your schedule a bit? Like, let's say that you do the workout, like the heavy workouts in the morning, and in the evening you do a sort of a power walk with the dogs or something, or?
Yeah, especially the last couple of days or weeks, more likely, were difficult because the kids were at home, or one of the kids were at home, and I had work to do. So, and especially with the podcast business, that comes down and happened most of the time between like 10 and 1.
Yeah.
So the interviews and all the recording sessions and stuff like that. So that is not possible. And the last couple of times I worked out really late was the matter of fact that I had a little bit of quality time with my wife, and I said I want to work out around it. And when we watched and talked till 10, and the result is then I have to work out then.
Yeah.
So, and that is part of the 75, just to make it work. And it is what it is. And I don't want to waste, so I didn't want to work out and not spend time with my wife. So, when the result is that I have 5 hours of sleep, then it is what it is. And it's going to get better.
Yeah.
But the weirdest part was I was out Saturday, and we went on a really long, light 80-kilometer bike ride, which was a heavy workout. And then we went to dinner and had a couple of drinks, but we were back at my friend's apartment, I would say 10. Then I sat down and read my 10 pages, and it was 10:20, 10:30 or something like that. He already was completely exhausted and went to bed. And I wasn't able to sleep till 12:30. And I procrastinated and kind of went to YouTube and listened to, and I wasn't able to fall asleep till 12:30. And I got up at 6.
Have you always had difficulties falling asleep?
No, not that, but my mind was going, and I just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just thinking about stuff, and then I just wasn't able to sleep, so I did something. Yeah, and I got up early in the morning. I could have slept. I wasn't at home. I was in another person's apartment, so I could have easily slept till 8 or 9 or something like that, but I was up at 6.
Just a biological alarm.
Yeah, my circadian clock,
So annoying.
we again already start rambling. Before we come to the things I want to talk about, because I had 2 interesting discussions over the last week. How is the challenge doing? You said you had an epiphany, more likely?
Yeah, so first question, challenge is going well. Every day I'm crossing off everything nicely, so check. Everything runs smooth there. But I noticed that I did, like the initial plan, or like the idea of my challenge was to, get myself off the couch, get moving more often, get more physical activity, more sports, and develop myself mentally as well by reading. And I think those main things, and obviously eating healthier than I did in the last quarter of 2023. And I've accomplished these things. I feel that I am doing more physical activity. I eat better. I sleep very good because of those things. I have more energy. I'm more positive. And I really like the reading and developing on whatever topic that interests me and that I'm reading about. So I feel that, like I've reached my goal. And for now, it just feels like I'm for the next, I think we're at day 51. And for the next, 24 days, it's just doing the challenge for the sake of doing the challenge. It feels a bit like I'm doing it because I promised myself and you and the listeners that I would do it, and I don't want to, like fall behind on that. So, yeah, I the last couple of days, I felt more and more that way.
But on the other hand, you're working on habits and maintaining it, and I think that is still helpful to do. Also, as long as you do, and as long as you continue to do the things, maybe the implementation of specific tasks you have to do every day will adapt better and deeper into your daily routines.
No, definitely. And I already was thinking as well about after the challenge, like which of those things do I want to continue doing? And as I mentioned in the previous episode, like there are several days in the morning during the week that I get up at around 5:45 or 6 o'clock, and I start my day by either reading or doing a workout. And I want to keep on doing that a couple of days of the week, because I feel that the days where I do it and I'm more awake, I have more energy. As soon as either Ziggy wakes up or either I start working, I'm more focused and I am more productive. There's this video online about this military guy who says, make your bed, I think is the video. That his philosophy is that as soon as you get up, you need to accomplish a thing. And he says, start by making your bed, because when you get up and the first thing you do is make your bed, it's like accomplishing something. And that, starts a series of actions and gets you ready for the day. And I feel that this is exactly what I'm doing with getting up early, finishing either a workout or reading. And it feels good. I think the eating part, when was it? Somewhere last week, we were talking about, with some colleagues of ours, we were talking about food. And I think she said that she wanted to buy some fries. And she asked me, like, do you miss that? Because before the challenge, we ate it at least once a week. And I do not miss it. When she spoke about it, I think that was literally the first time since the challenge that I was thinking, oh yeah, fries with peanut sauce and a hamburger, not the clean stuff, but like the disgusting deep fried stuff, obviously. And I did think, I wouldn't mind having a portion, but I didn't crave it or anything like that. So I think that is something in my mindset that has already changed, which is obviously, I think, a positive thing.
So when you think about it, what things do you want to continue, and you feel like that is an improvement for you and your lifestyle?
Reading, definitely, because I for the first time in ages, I feel that I developed my mind again. And it leads to very interesting conversations, not only with you, but also at work and with my wife about certain topics. For instance, about, like the mindset. We'll speak about that in the next episode, I guess. Eating clean, definitely want to continue it. Doing it every single day? No. Doing it 80% of the time? Yes. That would be perfect.
Are you going to continue the fasting?
I think so, yeah. Because I don't miss getting up and shoving things in my mouth directly. I don't miss a late night snack at 10 o'clock. I don't miss these kind of things. So I can definitely do it. I do miss a bit of water in my throat, I feel. Sorry. And doing more sports and stretching a lot. That is something that is really helping me a lot, because I noticed that since I found out which muscles all to stretch, I don't have any issues with my back anymore. Even though I do running, even though I do kettlebell training, even though I do weight exercises. So those are things that I'll definitely keep in there.
Every day, working out every day.
Well, I feel that I do need to keep the stretching, like maybe 3 times really working out, and then the rest of the days stretch, because I do need to keep on stretching. How about you? Did you already look past the 75 days?
Yeah, since I already did the 75 hard ones, so and I continued, so I continued the reading. I really enjoy the reading part. On the other hand, I feel like I annoy people a bit from time to time because I'm trying to share when I kind of read stuff, and I feel like that could be something other people will be interested as well. I said, yeah, since I'm now reading all these super interesting books, I just read that, and maybe XYZ could be interesting for you, and maybe I'm going to send you the link of that book. Check it out; it's really helpful.
Unsolicited
People,
advice.
yeah, more likely unsolicited, not even advice. More likely thinking, hey, you could participate from that because I learned a couple of things, so maybe you should check it out as well. And I'm not trying to teach people, but more likely, hey, I stumbled over something that could be helpful for you. Check it out. Maybe.
Have you had anyone who finds that annoying?
No, I don't think so. But yeah, there was a yeah, okay, thanks. Potentially, not many, and I realized not many people are reading these kind of books when they do read. And the other thing is, I'm still so. And I had a conversation on Monday where I talked a bit about the 75 hard challenge and more likely our podcast. And I had the realization that I haven't had, I think, not 1 or 2 days where it didn't work out over the last since September, more likely. When I started the first 75 hard challenge and even the time in between, I think there was 1 or 2 days I didn't work out, but I at least worked out once a day.
Would you continue doing that?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to continue to do that. And I'm not talking about the walk. The walk, that's a fact because I have to walk the dogs every day. And I enjoy like the 45 minutes being outside, even when it's raining, and have like time for me to think about stuff or listen to an audiobook or whatever. But actually working out and do yoga or going to the, I really kind of fell back in love with going to the gym and spend at least like 45 minutes working out there. So yeah, from a food perspective, I definitely have to continue to do that. Maybe not in the intensity I do, but I still have to make sure that because I still have my goal I want to accomplish, and I have to kind of adjust the diet and the fasting and stuff like that. But anyhow, I just want to ramble on. I think the 75 hard and the tasks you are asked to do, stuff you can implement as a habit in your daily life. Maybe not in the intensity it has, but I need rules. I'm a rule person. So and I have to continue. But when I start slipping up, I feel like then it's all going to down the drain. So I already think about if I'm going to continue the challenge in another form or just going to continue the challenge as it is with like this 75 hard second part or whatever. I have to read through it, but I enjoy it. It's fun for me.
And is the cravings that you have, is that something that triggers you to maybe continue the healthy food or the diet or the non-sugar or?
Yeah, I don't know. That's something I have to think about how I'm going to do that, because I ate a burger, but then I made it completely from scratch with healthy ingredients and not the shitty processed stuff. And I ate so if I'm able to implement like stuff and unhealthy food, which is not unhealthy because I did it from scratch, and I make sure that everything is organic and not too highly sugary, I think I can continue to do that. So let's see. But we are already too deep into, and I because I wanted to raise a question for you, which I found interesting, because I met two of my other close friend circles, and both are more likely in our same age. And I went out and we had a couple of drinks, and the conversation shifted to the topic of friendship. And the question I raised, and because I heard and read about it over the last couple of days, was, are we still able as males in our age group to get new friends? And is the friendship, or in brackets, the friendship we are developing, more based around social gatherings without any potential deeper meaning? So a good example was my friend told me, I met a couple of our neighbors and we sat down in a garage and had a couple of beers just to get out of the house. Still, since COVID, the bars were closed and we more likely continue to do that. And I asked him, so do you consider them your friends or your drinking buddies where you hang out with
What was his answer?
to banter? And he more likely said, yep, potentially like my drinking buddies or my buddies were not in my phone. So if I would have a real problem, they're potentially not the people I would call. And I had the same conversation with one of my other good friends who is the same, was like, yeah, my circle of friends is really, really, really small. And I feel like with this fast moving world and this whole kind of still manlyhood thing, it's super hard to find kind of new good friends. And you're constantly thinking if it's worth the investment of time and emotions to do so. And it was an interesting observation. And I'm super interested to hear your thoughts about it, obviously, but maybe our listeners as well, especially the male. Since we still have a female demographic, maybe it could be interesting to hear like how it is for females as well.
Would there be a difference between male and female?
I don't know. And I'm really keen to hear your thoughts about it. Since you are a social person, I felt like you are always super outgoing and
people can change.
But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah. No, it's funny actually, because this is something that my wife and I spoke about a while ago as well. And I indeed, I think when you and I met back in 2009-ish, 10-ish, something there, I was super social. I think it also had to do with the fact that I was playing handball in Hamburg. So I met a lot of new people I was new in the city. I was there all by myself together with my then girlfriend, and I didn't have anyone in the city that I knew. So I needed to find friends and contacts apart from the people that I worked with at my internship. And I think, like that is something that I want to stimulate or try to stimulate for my son as well. Like try to, to get him into team sports, because it's so good for your social skills. I'm definitely not going to push him into it, but I hope that he'll be, interested in that. And it really helped me, like settling in a completely new country and city back when I moved to Hamburg. Then when you live abroad, obviously I have my friends from back home in the Netherlands, where I grew up in the north, and the guys that I played handball with in the Netherlands. And when you go abroad, that's the moment where you really learn about friendship and how many real friends you really have. Because when you are abroad for half a year, or what I was abroad for a couple of years, I think 5. Like in the beginning, people keep on having contact. People keep asking you, like, how are you doing, etc., calling you, sending you a message or whatsoever. And at a certain point of time, it waters away a bit, except for with your real friends. So that's where I really noticed who are my real friends. And I think you mentioned before we started recording that this one friend of yours said that he has only 2 real good friends. I think that I have a bit more, but I'd say it's about a handful, maybe 6 or 7, but definitely not more than that. And when I came, well, when I became a father, actually, no, a bit before already, but at a certain point, you do start asking yourself, like, okay, how much effort am I going to put into, I don't know, getting to know new people and starting new friendships? And I have become less social than I used to be. Not that I'm a complete asocial person or something, but I started saying, like, no, I find it very difficult to find the proper amount of time to keep up with my, handful of really good friends. And that's why I really took a decision. I'm not putting that much energy into expanding my group of acquaintances or friends. I do find it nice to be in a social situation and getting to know new people. But yeah, with having a kid, with having a shop, with having my own job, etc., I tend to like to spend my free time more with my current friends and with my family. And then obviously family first, then the friends. Rather than, like putting a lot of effort into new people and starting new friendships.
Yeah.
Do you recognize yourself in that as well?
Yeah, I do. On the other hand, I find it difficult. So since we moved here, and it's already 4 years ago or 5 years ago, we didn't develop deep friendships with people around here. But that is, I think that is more likely a result of that we had to do so much regarding the office and having 2 kids and all this stuff. So the focus is shifting when you have a family but on the other hand, from time to time, you feel like, yeah, there's missing something. But on the other hand, when you try to reach out, on the other hand, people are the same. And you ask yourself, okay, if I would stop reaching out to that person, for example, will that person ever come back to me and reach out? Or is it just me who is driving this relationship?
Yeah.
And that is a weird feeling. On the other hand, I'm asking myself, is it helpful that you start asking yourself that question, but instead of just put some work into it and just hope, I think hope is the wrong word, but put some work into it and developing a relationship where you feel like, okay, this is a 50-50 relationship or friendship. But it's still kind of this small voice in your head where it's like, yeah, what would happen if you stop reaching out?
I think it's very easy, or like relatively easy, to find out how good of a friendship it is. Like, I notice that if I'm really, from time to time, I'm really good and I'm really bad at reaching out to people, just like with you. I mean, there's been a period of a couple of years where we had very few contact.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, you pick up the contact again, and it feels like you've met each other yesterday for the last time. Yeah. And I think if that is happening in a conversation, in a WhatsApp conversation or face-to-face or video call whatsoever, if that is happening, I think it's a really good friendship. And those are the kind of people that I want to put my energy in.
Yeah.
Because that's for me a rewarding feeling.
Yeah. And on the other hand, talking to people and opening up, you need time. And I think time is a huge factor.
Do you think it's because we get older and it gets a bit more difficult to open up to people? Are we becoming like the people that we don't want to become?
I don't have an issue with, so I'm open with my good friends. So I talk to you about stuff that's going on, and talk to Christian, who's a good friend of mine, and I met on Saturday, and we talked a lot about this kind of stuff. And I think it's super healthy to maybe from time to time get an outsider perspective on situation. On the other hand, for example, which I also said, where I have my boundaries and I'm doing to quit working on relationship. When, for example, when you have another married couple and the husband is bad mouthing his wife in front of me, that is an absolutely no go for me. Because I never in my dreams I would start kind of talking bad about my wife, because that is something which is between. So when I have an issue, I'm going to talk to my wife and not somebody on the outside, because that is inside business. And I feel like that is a character flaw. And I don't want to, and it's another kind of negativity. And I don't want to surround my people who are driving on negativity. And I think that's a character flaw. If you're married and you have issues, you can say, yeah, we have like marriage issues, and talk about and maybe get advice or kind of bounce back and forth idea, maybe what can I do? But that is not including, yeah, my wife is not nice or whatever.
No. Bad mouthing is a whole different level. Maybe let me go a bit further back to the initial subject about putting effort into new relationships and everything. You are at the parent game a bit, a couple of years ahead of me. My understanding is that at a certain point, the kids get at a specific age where, like they get play dates, they get friends. You start, I don't know, getting more contact with parents of other kids, like from sports, from school, whatsoever, where they are with your kid. Is that, like, do you develop new friendships out of that?
I think you do. But on the other hand, you need to be careful that you don't judge. So my son met kids where I felt like, okay, that is definitely not our social circle. They are not. But when my son, I like him. He's nice. And I said, if you have a good time, you have a good time. I don't have to be friends with the parents. Obviously, it helps because in that kind of age, our kids are the drivers of developing a relationship between kids are the parents. So when the parents, don't like you, setting up a play date is more likely impossible, because they are not going to move forward and encourage them kids to kind of meet. So you have to develop some kind of a friendship or relationship, but you don't have to be best friends. If the kids are starting to become more and more involved with each other, I think that comes automatically. But from the experience over the last couple, I think especially over the last 2 years, I feel like if the parents are not as keen to get involved with the opposing side, with the opposing parent side, there won't be any kind of deep development when it comes down to friendships. And again, then it becomes one-sided. So one person reaches out, hey, my son would like to play with your son, then it's fine. But the opposing side will never reach out and ask for like time. That's an interesting thing to see.
You know what I'm sometimes a bit, afraid is a big word, but afraid of? I became a father at a relatively late age. I'm 40 years old. I'm turning 41. And I'm sometimes seeing myself standing at the fence of the school, and my kid is 10 years old, and he comes running towards me, and I'm standing there 50 years old, the old man. And then I have all these young fathers around me, 28, 9 years old, 30 years old, and they'll look at me like, who's that old timer? What is he doing here?
Oh, it's so nice. The grandpa is kidding up his grandkid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm sometimes thinking. And it's funny because there is actually a guy who has a dog whose birthday is exactly on the same day as my birthday, and he's exactly 10 years older. And his kid is exactly 10 years older than mine. And when Joshua was pregnant, I spoke to him, and I was talking to him about this topic, and he was like, he had exactly the same when he was just about to become a father, and when he was in my age, in my specific situation. And he was like, sometimes I think about this and I look around and I'm thinking, yep, I am the old guy.
But on the other hand, I think you're not alone, I would say. So it tends to be the situation that people get kids later in their lives.
Yeah. Especially men.
And it's the opposing side for me, because I always feel like the youngest in the room, everywhere.
Really?
Yeah. Everybody
interesting.
is older than me. I got my son when I was 27, and that's pretty young in this times. So when I am at the hockey game, when I'm at the kindergarten, wherever I am, I always feel like I'm the youngest person in the room.
And does that hinder you from getting in touch with the other fathers?
Yeah, from time to time, I feel like that they are a little bit weirded, so that they feel like that they are too old for me. It's funny. So we were at the gym class for my youngest son today, and one of his kindergarten buddies now joined us, and we talked about driver's licenses. And I said, yeah, and I'm not allowed to drive RVs with because I got mine in 2004. And one of the fathers turned around and said, 2004, my son was born there. So because he's older, so he has 3 sons, and his youngest son was born in 2004. So do you know where I'm coming from here? So that's the stuff I'm dealing with.
You know what's funny? You just said, like, sometimes I feel like they're too old for me. And when you said that, my heart broke a tiny bit. I felt personally insulted.
No, yeah.
Even though it's directed at people who are even older than I am. But it's interesting because I only thought about this from my viewpoint, and now I hear it from the viewpoint of you, of like the person who got a kid at a younger age. Mm-hmm. And basically we're thinking of the same thing, but just from different angles.
Yeah. Even another cool thing that we're doing this podcast, and Mars, we have to come to an end.
I know.
We need to. But I think that is super interesting, and I think it would be interesting if one or two of the listeners could chime in here. So reach out, let us know your thoughts on other things. I think that was a super interesting conversation. And I think we should continue that, because I feel like we haven't said all about it, but we have to come to an end now.
We're getting deeper into the fatherly grit stuff.
Yeah,
I like it. Okay, before we go, I have one very short story to tell, and it's a really, really, really cute story.
Okay.
Because I think I told you already that sometimes I work out here in the living room on my yoga mat.
Yeah. And
together with Ziggy. And then I do crunches, he climbs on top of me and whatnot. What happened is I was doing my stretching routines, and sometimes he lays next to me and, does little stretch routines himself as well, like puts his leg in the air or whatsoever, tries to, mimic me, copy me. What happened is I rolled out the yoga mat and I went to the kitchen. I don't know, I got my water bottle or whatsoever. And I came back and I see him sitting on hands and knees, lifting his legs up one by one in the air, doing like yoga-like movements. It was the cutest thing I've ever seen. So I think this entire challenge is also affecting my son right now.
Yeah, he's going to develop habits there.
Yeah, love it.
All right, Mars. We are going to skip the outlook. We have to get a surprise next week, what happened. So Thank you for spending time with me and have a deep talk here.
And thank you. And listeners, I hope that we gave you some more energy than we did during the last episodes.
Bye, guys.
All right, bye-bye.